this is a 91 Astro van, and it is old as crap. It's a jewel. So anyway, I'll do my best to explain what I've done here. And I'm not going to be able to explain why, because it's stupid. So the exhaust is it is for it's from Speed Engineering. It's for a Dodge, I'm pretty sure it's a Dodge Dakota. It may have been a full-size Dodge, now that I think about it. Anyway, definitely a Dodge. Not a TIG welder, barely a welder. Hell, I'm not even a mechanic anymore. Not even sure I was. So, booger welded this using my my MIG and some steel wire, grinder and some paint. Grinder and paint makes me the welder I ain't. I shortened this up because obviously the height is different, but these parts here, the two pipes, basically from there back, all this is as it came in the box, but flipped a bunch of different ways. I think this probably went flat. I run it up and over the drive shaft like this. Hey, it looks like a freaking octopus, but I despise having to take the exhaust loose to take the transmission out, as well as when you see the van from the side. I didn't want everything hanging down and just, well, I didn't want anybody seeing the crap that I put on there, so it's tucked up under there. Like I said, lots of bends, looks like an octopus. The motor placement on this deal is basically all done off where the drive shaft's at. It's the factory drive shaft that come in the van, and I didn't want to cut it. I know how to cut drive shafts, I didn't freaking want to. So basically I took and put the motor in. The Astro vans used two of these, flipped over and welded there and there. I cut all that crap off, and I put basically a 2x4 under here, and then up front I used a couple of 4x4s to mount it left and right, and just kept sliding the motor around till it lined up on the drive shaft like I wanted. From there, this didn't fit at all, so I took the torch and I heated the crap out of this there and there. And I put a ratchet strap here on the rear end and then there. And I heated it and I ratcheted it a lot. Is that a word? So much so it broke the ratchet strap. But with that, I come up with this. It's not pretty, but it was cheap. So then I used this, which is a stock style mount in a lot of GM cars, including this one. Well, actually, I think this one was square. But anyway, probably like an S10 is probably what I got that for, which is same with the Camaro and a bunch of other stuff. Flipped one of these over, did that to it, booger welded it on. Let's see, the headers. Headers are Speed Engineering as well. They are for they're for I believe it's a 99 2000 Camaro, whatever the first years of the LS Camaro was. But they fit well. It just happened that they fit where they fit after I put the motor where I wanted it, motor and transmission where I wanted it. But the only really tight spot, and I probably could have cut that, but this is, as you can see, the bolt holes. One of the factory mounts, motor mounts, I left it. And then on this side, I cut those holes in the frame, which they probably need some paint, to get the bolts loose for the other factory motor mount. And that's kind of one of the reasons I left that, because, well, that just sucked. So with that, I got these mounts off of, I believe it was off Amazon, but they're just universal, you can't see, just universal LS mounts. And after I made the transmission cross mirror where I wanted it to be, I took the 4x4s out and just measured 37 times and cut like 12 and come up with that. Booger welded them in. The other place, with all that, the other place these headers are tight is right there on the frame. They're for sure close, but they don't hit. Probably couldn't breathe in between them. That's the only spot I really had to hammer. Oil pan, factory truck oil pan. Let's see, I used as much factory stuff between the two vehicles But the donor vehicle was an '03 Chevrolet Suburban. I used as much factory stuff as I could. Of course, I could have used braided lines and did all kind of fancy stuff, but the goal of this was to be cheap and reliable. So this is what it looked like. Obviously, this came with a donor vehicle, but this linkage is all from the Astro van. It's in a little bit different spot. I had to adjust it some, but it works well. I had to cut some off of this spring because it was in a bind. But like I said, it works well. I wonder how many times I'm going to say in this video. It's going to be a lot. So fuel system, let's go with that. So this is the factory style tank, the larger of the two. I got it off Rock Auto. The other tank, these things are, you know anything about these fine vehicles, the plastic pieces in the bottom of the tank are bad about coming up and sucking up against the pump and just making it, well, it's making it not run. So got the new tank in there because when I took that one out, changed the fuel pump, I found the plastic piece busted. And then also got the sending unit from Rock Auto, and I used the pump was for a 97 Suburban, which makes plenty of pressure for this. I think this thing is 60 some, 64, I'm not sure. Whatever a LM753 needs is what this is. But it works great. The lines, factory Astro van lines, factory fuel filter, and then from there, part store stuff. Use the tubing bender, made a bunch of double flares, and just attached these lines because, you know, the '03 still used these kind of lines. Patched in the lines from the '03 Suburban. They cleared somehow, which a lot of stuff I have no idea how it cleared, but it worked. The the rear AC, well, actually all the AC, I got a few parts off of Amazon. I got the rest of the stuff from a place out in Arizona. Air components, air. Let's go look. I think it's air components. Ow, sucky camera work. Sorry. So yeah, just ordered a bunch of crap. Tried to draw it out. Yeah, there we go. Air components. These guys. Oh wow, that light's making it crazy. Air components. Yep. Actually, when I called them, I actually talked to a human, and it was pretty nice. Knowledgeable folks. They made a bunch of stuff, which I'll show you in a minute. And crazy adapters and whatnot. And then I used a lot of their line, and also got some line from Scamazon. And I bought this to compress all the lines. I don't remember how much it was, but it was, if I bought it, it was cheap. They had one that was like this, and they had one with a line that come from it, and it had the pump part off to the side, which he said he actually used in the business to make these lines and these fittings and stuff, which I thought was pretty cool. But it comes with a bunch of stuff that doesn't make any sense to me, but I just kind of lined it up and it crimped it where I needed to be, and it didn't leak. So I left it at that. And I broke it. Yeah, why not? Moving on. Where was I? We talked about the headers and lines. Sidetracked on the AC stuff. Oh, scissor. Mounts. Oh, yeah. Oh, we're under here. So there was nowhere to put the vacuum chamber for all the vents inside. And so stuck it under here and used some copper tubing that I had and run it up to the intake manifold. It works well. The dipstick tube is off of a full-size van. See if I can get in there and see that. There we go. Two-piece dipstick tube, full-size van. I believe it was probably '08 or 10. I'm not sure what year it was. Maybe I'd have to look. Maybe it was an whatever comes with the 60E and the LM7 in it. Maybe a 4.8. I can remember. I'll post it. If I learn how to edit. Yeah. So moving on from that shit that I don't know. AC lines run over kind of the way the factory did. Zip tied because those Those are essential. It has many zip ties. Keep it back from the headers. Oddly enough, the spark plugs on this thing aren't that, well, they're about as hard to change as the Astro van was, which kind of sucked, but you can get them all from the top. You get the two fronts on the passenger side from outside the vehicle, and the rest of them you take the dog box off, and you can get to all of them. What else is there under here? I feel like I'm missing something. No, I'm rambling. Anyway, radiator. Radiator is off of a Jeep Liberty. No, fan. Radiator fan. Radiator fan is off of a Jeep Liberty. So anyway, I had a junk one. Did all the fitting with that, cut, grinded, figure out what I needed to do and not do, and it worked fine. I mean, I had to cut the sides off, like there you can see, and of course that comes from Lowe's, which is where you get all your hot rodding parts from. Just made those two straps, used some nut certs, bolted everything from the backside. It's close, but it doesn't touch the radiator. More parts store flare fitting stuff. Used a factory 03 Suburban lines and some decent clamps. Mounted them into the factory radiator. What else we got? Oh, this van. Yeah. So the van factory radiator, like I said, is the fan was a lot taller. Was that about 4 inches or so, 3-4 inches? And it probably doesn't matter, but I took some flashing and I made that cover, some crappy rivets. This thing, I mean, it obviously it works even on a 100-degree day. It's nice and cool. I've got the fan turn on low, and I've got it turn. It turns off at 45 mile an hour. I use the stock ECM for all this, which if I ever did it again, I would definitely go with Holly. This is a lot easier. Takes a lot less time than putting the dang stock ECM harness on a diet. What else? This. Oh yeah, so air conditioning. For the compressor, how we can see it here. I cut the crap out of the frame. I just basically kept cutting until I could get the bolts out, the back bolts out, and service the compressor in and out easily. And then I took it back out, flipped it over, and welded some metal in there to make it look decent. I feel, I mean, it probably makes it more sturdy, but I don't know that it matters. More custom lines. Let's see, radiator. Oh, bottom radiator hose is a cut down version for the 03 Suburban. The air intake is just parts of stuff from Amazon, but it started out as a cold air kit for a 03 Suburban, or the truck body style, and more couplers and parts and things from Amazon until I finally figured out what I wanted. Let's move on. What else is there? Accessories. Everything accessory wise is the factory truck stuff, except for that pump. The pump is actually the Astro van pump with the truck pulley, which I don't know, it's probably not a difference at all, but I use the truck pulley just because it felt good. Mounts, we described that. All right, let's let it down. And I'll try and ramble through the rest of it. I will be right back because this lift makes a buttload of noise. And I'm back. I can turn that light off and turn light on. Hopefully it won't turn into a disco light. Where was that? The pump. So yes, I stayed with the factory Astro van pump because this thing has Hydro Boost, which is pretty dang nice, not having to deal with power brakes for a cam. It's got the sloppy stage 2 cam with the Elgin, I don't know, whatever the Elgin cam is, and the Pack 1218 springs. Cheap, proven, so I use that. Use the factory lines for that, and factory spot, factory, all that I could. This van, the cruise control that it did have had the big vacuum dashpot on the side of the motor. Obviously that wouldn't work, so this is off of the 03 Suburban donor vehicle as well. I made that little crappy bracket and bolted her on there with the same rubber mounts. These are for the cooling fan. I thought I was going to have two, so I ended up just wiring them both together and leaving them there because well, basically I already put the screw holes in. These things I think are from maybe 90, early mid 90s up to at least 03 when they stopped using them when they went to electric throttle bodies. Of course, the cruise control hooked right up because it was off the 03. But this throttle cable, it is the factory throttle cable from the Astro van, and I shortened the cable up inside and added a little brass cable stop to it. Works great. Of course, made all custom lines, teed them in for the AC. Ended up having some leaks here and there, but after a fair amount of profanity, I got it to work. So I mounted the ECM right here. Originally, I had it down in there, but that didn't work because there was nowhere for the air filter to go, which there still isn't nowhere for the air filter to go, but there it is, down in there. And if you look, I think you can see, yeah, right there, you can see I'm using that mass airflow meter. What's up, buddy? What are you doing? Kill, attack! You come to inspect the gate. It's food time, isn't it? All right, well, give me a minute. Let's see. Yep, you can kind of see the air filter right down in there. It's a little bit of a pain to get to, but I guess not that bad. No more often you have to change it. The air temps going on the road, I mean, you know, it's a little high when you're sitting still, but that's to be expected. But going on the road, it's nice and cool. And it made, even with this bastard air intake, it still made 305 of the tires locked in third. I thought that was pretty fair. It's enough to achieve the goals of burning the tire. The tire. It's a one tire fire at this point. What else? Well, this is where a large portion of the stuff comes through for headlights and, you know, fuse box stuff, controls, you know, air, AC motor. Let's see if you can see it in here. Yep, there it is. Right down there past the dipstick is where all the stuff come through for the original ECM, and I used it in a lot of different spots to drive different things from the fuse box inside, brake switch, that sort of thing. Some of the stuff for the cruise control wiring is through there, and I wired that into the factory button for the van. What else is there to talk about? Oh, dipstick tube and stuff. So this is, I want to say it's maybe an 08, 07, whatever the last year was that they had the 4853 LS stuff in the van with the 60E. And I guess maybe I'll look that up and figure out how to post stuff once I learn to edit. What I ended up doing with it is cut the crap out of it like I did everything else. Cut the mount off of it, which you can see right down there. It was up here, actually, and where that piece is that I just left. If you don't look at it, or you look really fast, you don't even see it. Slid it down, bolted it to the front coil mount, tacked it in, and it was great except for that it stuck out to about there. So I cut the crap out of it, which pretty much is how this whole thing is. Booger welded it back on. As you can see looking in there, and it looks like it's supposed to be there if you don't look too quickly. Dipstick tube, top, same deal as the bottom for the van. When I did it though, one thing I did do is I pulled the pan off, and when I put the dipstick tube in there, I made sure that it was at the right level, you know, around the top of the pan rail. I think it's where it's at. Whatever, yeah, right below the pan rail. So I didn't smoke the transmission with a dipstick tube I thought was right, but was not. Oil dipstick is just factory Suburban Tahoe stuff. I just bend it a little bit. It's a little far down there, but it's not that bad. What else is there to go over? Lots of crap, I guess. Oh, the computer. So yeah, so I mounted the computer like this. This is actually the corner, I think, or the top. Yeah, the top of the fan that I was test fitting. I just cut it and run these two pieces in it, so It sort of takes your eyes off of the crap that's actually under here that holds the computer in. The computer mount is off of the Tahoe, and what I ended up doing was taking a flat piece of steel, drilling it, and running 4 or 5 rivets through it to rivet the flat piece of steel to this, and it holds the computer well. It's tight, but it's in there, and it doesn't wriggle around. Of course, that left me no room for the overflow, so I got this little cheesy Amazon deal, which I think a lot of us build our hot rods from Amazon and hardware stores. This is actually the hose for the Astro van, cut down professionally, and it clears, worked well. What else did I do? I explained the fan, more stuff. Oh yeah, so the mounts for the radiator, this part of it is the factory van stuff, and then cut and booger welded the flat steel from Lowe's, and then this piece welded onto another flat piece that goes under here and across, and I use the bolt holes for the factory fan shroud. Oddly enough, when I put this motor in, it lined up to a point that I could have used a factory fan for the Tahoe in with a factory shroud. It fit. That was all well and good, except for I had nowhere to put this. So my thoughts were maybe put something up and don't run a mass airflow meter and scoops in the hood, or just. But I'm not talented enough to cut something like that, so I didn't. Being that the computer is the 03 Tahoe style, it didn't use the 3-prong pressure switch. It uses a high pressure switch on the back of the compressor and then a low pressure switch on the dryer. So I was able to wire in the factory switch on the Astro van, low pressure switch, and then actually have the ECM control the compressor, as well as letting it know when it turns on so it can bump the idle and add time or whatever magic that it does that I don't understand. If you are a tuner of vehicles, hats off to you. That shit is hard to learn. Anyone that says it's easy, well, they probably already learned it. Added a couple of relays. I added this relay to run the injectors because I was a little concerned about that much load on the crappy fuse box this thing comes with. The rest of them are what come in the van. There was a lot of van stuff I had to fix because it's a 300,000 mile Astro van. And I thought about different places to put the air cleaner, maybe down in here, move the battery to the back or something. But eventually I just come up with that, and it's tight, but it works. How many times have I said That'll be a bunch. Let's go to the inside, which is uneventful. It fits. Somehow it fits. When I capped off, the brake line, that was probably the thing that stuck out the most. Was if I were to use the intake, on the back of the intake for the power brake booster on the Suburban Tahoe, whatever it was, it stuck out pretty far, and I didn't know what to do. And then I saw where I saw it at. It was from a 2500 that had Hydro Boost on it. There was a little piece that goes in the back of the intake. Obviously, it's together, so I'm not taking that bastard apart to demonstrate, but it's a block off that goes in the back of the intake. After that, the intake cleared well. The rest of this is pretty freaking uneventful. Oh yeah, so for the gauges, I wired in the Camaro. I think it was a 98 Camaro. Comes with a man. I hope that didn't make a bunch of scratchy noise. 98 Camaro comes with a 3-wire or 3-pin coolant temperature sensor, 2 for the computer and 1 for the gauge. Well, it just so happens to work on this older stuff, and it's fairly close. Which, I mean, it's as close as these gauges are. They're not accurate. The oil pressure sender was pretty easy. I just used the one off the Tahoe, and it's has the wire that goes to it that reads the gauge, because it didn't do 5-volt reference like the newer ones did. And what else? I think that's it. Let's fire it up. Makes all this choppy chop. With the cooling fan, that kind of presented a little bit of a problem because this ECM isn't really made for a cooling fan, but there is a part in there that's not used in the Tahoe, something to do with the son of a bitch. Got too much blood in my alcohol system. There's a control or a pin that's got to do with the HVAC system. That's better. For an extra vent or something. Should have found that. But anyway, you can use it, and you can it comes on at a certain temperature, on and off. You can turn it on and off at a certain temperature. I think maybe it's a fresh air deal or something like that. So basically, you add a wire to the pin on the ECM, and then you tell it what you want to turn on and off at, and you can actually use it for cooling fans. So what I ended up doing, I wanted the AC. Obviously, I need the cooling fans to come on when the AC's on and it's going slow, because like airflow. Without having any input with the triple pin switch where it sees AC pressure and then tells the fans to turn on, because this ECM never had a fan, electric cooling fan. I think that started in maybe 05, maybe. I don't know. What I ended up doing was just telling the cooling fans to turn on at like 50 degrees. So basically when you start it up, they come on. And then I told them to turn off at 45 miles an hour. So if you slow down, they run, but it's not as crappy as running all the time. And it works well, man. This thing, like I said, even on a 100-degree day, it still stays nice and cool. Doesn't care a bit. What else? I'm sure there's something I've missed in my ramblings. I don't know. Use the stock harness, put that on a diet, which sucks. I think if I ever do something again that uses stock computer, I'm probably going to get the Amazon $200 wiring harness, because I figure even if I had to mess with it for a couple of hours because something's wrong, pinned weird or whatever, it's still way less time than depinning and putting a factory harness on a diet. It's cool if you can say that you can do that, but what's your time worth, man? I really can't think of anything. Oh, I can think of something else. The AC lines on the compressors. That's where the AC components deal. They really shine through for me. Hang on a second. Let me get this looked back. Like I said, this is where these guys really shined at. Oh, that's freaking bright. Right in the orbitals. You see it? Yep. You see it pretty good. Those connectors, they're flat. These guys custom made these to where the lines come right off the compressor flat. And it's like everything else. It's freaking close in here. But it works. I had a few leaks on those due to my own stupidity. Cut one of the seals, put it together. But had I used any kind of like hot rod stuff, it would have went straight into that A-arm right there. It just wasn't possible. And just digging around on the Google side, found these guys, and they did the deal. They hooked it up. So the cool guy stuff, let's see if I can find it. Hot rod type stuff comes straight out, yeah, like these. So they would come straight out and just hit the A-arm. You can work it off. These guys make these bad boys, and they come flat, so you can buy them if you know. Yeah, there you go. So if you actually know how to do this kind of stuff, you can buy and make your own. Clearly, as stated, I do not. This is how they come bare. But I bought some just in case I could find somebody who could. I even thought about drilling and tapping it, but in the end, going with what they sold as the easiest thing. Yeah, that's about it. I need to fix that. And if I can think of anything else, I guess I'll learn how to edit. That's about it. So say bye, Ricky.
Holy shit.